We're gonna go. Sorry, Greg. We're gonna go slightly out of order as we've got some kiddos who have been waiting very patiently, so. I'll let you guys do.
All right, we're gonna do some phases. I'm gonna introduce Ms. Jones here, and then Ms. Jones is gonna introduce her team. I want to just speak real quickly to the fact that Ms. Jones is our Oregon Battle of the Books main staff head teacher at the intermediate school, and that she and in conjunction with several other teachers have been working throughout the spring with our many different students at the intermediate school as they kind of went through the process of reading the books and putting in the hard work and coming to practices every single week to battle, to go against each other, to go against the teachers. Actually, this team beat the teachers in a assembly. And the teachers tried to beat, but they right? And so with that, I'm gonna turn to Ms. Jones, who will introduce you to our amazing Battle of the Book winners.
Hi, we're so happy to be here, and I am so proud to introduce this team. They are simply amazing. I can't say enough about them. Some of these students have been in OBOT with me for 3 years. Lauren and Ruby, they started during COVID, so they were online with me. 4 of them have been together for 2 years on a team. So I'll tell you more about it. And then one has joined them starting with regionals, and you wouldn't know that this person wasn't with them for the other 2 years. So this is your wonderful team. This team has battled or read books since September, maybe even last spring you started reading. I don't know, did somebody start reading the list? Yeah. And about now, and they can start reading for next year. There are typically 16 books for these students to read and memorize and crunch back the minuscule little details that you would not believe, to battle against other teams to get to regionals, which this team won our local battle, so they went to regionals. At regionals, they'll fight it a little bit, right? But they won regionals for our region. To our region 2A or 2B at the state tournament April 15th, along with second place team, which was a Salem Laser team. So I have here for you, so kids stand up to my phone. Gianna Rose, she is our spokesperson. When they answer the questions, Gianna is the only person allowed to do it. Next to Gianna is I think they're going to go very far in state, and we just really appreciate you taking the time to get to know them. If you have any questions for them,
We are new there. North Marion School District Frisbee. You are the first recipients. All the teachers, your teachers.
Yep, don't show Mr. Crom. He might want to take them. All right, so
we can come watch the competition?
Absolutely, April 15th. I can't tell you exactly what time. The opening ceremonies are at 9. Battles start following that. Love to have people supporting them, cheering them on. It's a lot of fun. I think parents, didn't you think it was a little intense? Parents, I think parents were a little more nervous than the kids, but they really are exceptional. Not only do they know these books very well, but their character, they're representing us with such class. I had many, many comments from adults that came up and talked about how wonderful they were at regionals and how outstanding behavior they have in team sportsmanship. So we should be proud in many ways for this group. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Good luck at the next competition. And go ahead.
Parents, this team was originally called the Rockin' Readers. Now they're North Marion because they don't get to do pick their own name. But parents, go ahead. Come on. Rockin' Readers.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, so we have our agenda. Not mine. To consider yet, so I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll just take the agenda as presented.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Let's just do this by voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So our agenda is as presented. Public comments, I didn't see anybody signed up. So if we don't have anybody there, we'll move along. Couple of things,
Agenda ahead of time. If so, how?
It's online.
It's online.
OSBA Summer Board Conference under our board agenda is August 10th through the 12th, 2023. We're changed to the Salem Convention Center this year, so we probably will not be staying. We'll probably just be commuting, but I would encourage everybody to make that.
Glenn, this is Rich. Sorry to interrupt. I was just
Sure,
looking
go
at the OSBA website and it says there's a new date, August 11th to 13.
Okay, good to know.
So not sure
Oh,
which
good.
is correct, but
Diane's giving me a finger, so go ahead. Not being a finger. Please clarify.
The pre-conference starts on April 10th. The regular conference starts on June 11th.
Does it
They
go
don't
through
have
the
an
13th
agenda
or?
yet.
When do you need to know if we're going?
They haven't even sent out their registration information yet. I
Okay.
just kind of want to get on radar and
Okay,
they really anticipate a lot of new board members across the state of Oregon this year in this election year. And so their focus is gonna be on new board members, and there's some links in there for maybe let's go look around on those.
okay, cool. We did, OBOB, just a note here, Arab American Heritage Month, April is April 2023. Item number C, ODU state education updates. I don't know if you want to give us a little bit of legislative update too.
Actually, I'll start. Actually, I just got back last weekend from Orlando from the National School Boards Conference. Attended several, it was a good conference, a lot of well done workshops, including one from the state of Oregon. For me, I attended community partnerships for greater equity, talking about how to use community groups for engaged with district leaders for better equity outcomes. There was a effective boardmanship going on poverty and ethnicity, which was cool, where they used the WASDA data and also from Missouri and Montana, where they're correlating school board self-evaluations with district outcomes to show how effectiveness in the school board correlates to student outcomes. And they have a lot of good data and they want to spread that to more states. So we're looking at maybe bringing the WASDA spec over to here as a possibility. And then Jenna Hager was one of the keynotes. She's ex-teacher, or as she calls herself, the bad twin. You know, I can say that because that's what she said in the thing, but how she's turned her life into very productive in education and does the NBC book club and all that kind of stuff. And what we did, we had two people, Spencer Lewis and Haley Purcell, presented there at the most packed standing room only workshop, the only one in the whole conference on parents' rights and education, which was quite good and well done. And they reviewed all the Supreme Court cases on parents' rights and education and how that affects what can and can't be done, especially at board members and from the public. We could ask them for some more topics if we choose to on that. There was also a nice one from Phoenix, Arizona, on increasing employee diversity in your workforce and how they achieve that. The final guy was the best day, where the keynote that started it off was the founder of Siri, the guy who created Siri and that sold it to Apple. He gave a good speech on AI and things, and that's what I do for a living, so it was kind of intriguing for me to see his take on it. But we talked a great deal about that day on AI in public education and how that's going to be effective and how it needs to be handled properly. Back to what you originally said is what we're looking at right now in OSBA and the legislature in Salem. Governor has a lot of requests right now, and one of them that's not being well received by the rest of the legislators, her request to properly fund summer learning is kind of getting the silent treatment, which is sad. But the comment we got from the legislative body was they have requests for funds right now that are totaling just over 100 billion, with like 10 billion in the budget. So 90% of what everybody's being asked is asking for is gonna get auto chopped, and then the rest of it will be things. So that's just something to think about as we have our new legislator, well, predominantly legislators down there. There is a roadshow going on right now with the Joint Ways and Means Committee to discuss some of these things. It's going through Portland and then going around the state. If anybody wants to attend, you can find that on the OLS website on there. So that is 2 minutes if you want to speak. But hundreds of people are going to these road shows, so you've got to just to hear how they're getting their feedback. Senate Bill 292 is stalled, which is the one that requires you to file an SEI form. They were asking for a waiver to beat the April 15th deadline. Odds are that that's not gonna make it. So if you haven't filed your SEI form, I recommend it. It is quite a large fine for not properly filing your SEI form. HB 3198 funds early literacy. This is the one sponsored and written by Stanford Children. This is just raising education outcomes for kids, especially in early literacy and preschool learning. That is getting good discussion. Senate Bill 1045 is the governor's bill in response to the Secretary of State's audit of Oregon Department of Education, which was not a very pleasant audit for the ODE. So there's a lot of accountability things going in there, including issues where the State Board of Education can take over your school district if you're not up to par. So there's a lot of back and forth and wrangling over that. And the last one that's controversial is SB 819, which is abbreviated school days for IDEA students, unfunded, but requiring a lot more strict rules with penalties of removing funding for your district if not properly done. So that's in a huge debate. And actually, that's one I'm part of. So I'll stop there. Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, we hit them all.
Okay. Moving along to D, with Matthew Darrell and Kenley. You guys want to give an update?
Yep. Good evening, school board members. Thank you for having us and allowing us to give you an update about all the clubs that are going on after high school. So as for ASB, last Wednesday, 11 of our ASB members were taken by Ms. Redlinger to the state capitol in Salem, and students were able to speak with a few people in office and ask questions regarding schools and education. And then we are also having our ASB application packets available for next school year, where students can apply for president, class president, vice president, and other positions that we offer. And those applications are due on Wednesday, April 19th. And we are excited to have, all those positions open and hoping to have elections on May 8th. And then ASB is also excited to announce that we will be having our first responders dinner on Thursday, April 27th to honor and appreciate those who serve our community. The dinner will be taking place from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the high school commons. There will be pizza, drinks, games, gift card raffles, and more. Everything will be free of charge to anyone that is attending, thanks to our generous sponsors. And all first responders serving our local area are welcome. And if anyone is planning on attending, if they could go onto our ASB Instagram, which is ASB_NMHS, they can scan the QR code that we have on there, or they can use the link that is in our bio. That way we can get an estimate of how many first responders we will be receiving at this dinner. And that's all EMT, fire, and police departments.
For May Day, it will be taking place this year on Friday, May 5th, with a superhero theme of Adventures of Husky Nation. There'll be both a day and evening performance. The day performance will be from 12:45 to 2:45, and the evening performance from 7 to 9 p.m. There'll be skits, dances, the waltz, and more. In addition, students who are interested in auditioning for MC or an act will have the opportunity to audition and try out tomorrow on Tuesday and on Friday as well, doing both lunches in the music room. And the May Day committee is also looking for 11 crinoline pieces for the May Day court. If you have one or would like to donate, please contact Mrs. Bailey at the high school.
And then as for Key Club, we are going to be having some officer positions open up for anyone who is interested in joining the club and giving back to the community. And then as well, we are looking forward to serving at the Woodburn Mayor's Prayers Breakfast, which is on May 11th. So we're pretty much serving as a hostess to everyone who attends that breakfast. And then we are also hoping to coordinate a cleanup with the Aurora Cemetery later in May.
For FBLA, 15 members attend the State Business Leadership Conference this past weekend in Portland, where they got to stay overnight. Almost all members placed in the top 10 in state, with 6 placing in the top 4 and moving on to nationals in Atlanta, Georgia. And then they had 2 members recognized on the FBLA Business Honor Roll. And our chapter at North Marion was also recognized as a champion chapter.
And then as for METCHA, we will be hosting concessions this Wednesday, April 12th for softball, and Tuesday, April 25th for track. And if you would like to support METCHA and help them fund t-shirts, the dances for the Ballet Folklorico, which we're looking to have that in May for May Day. If you would like to support METCHA, please come out for those concessions and support METCHA and our Husky athletes.
For FFA, they've had a very busy month. 11 students attended the 95th Oregon State FFA Convention, where students competed and participated in leadership workshops. Denali Bosco placed in the top 10 in advanced public speaking. Katie Wiedemann accepted the Superior Chapter Award, and Denali and Drew Sinnott were district winners in the proficiency areas, and Drew was awarded the Blue Jacket Experience. Members have also been busy planting and maintaining the greenhouse, keep it ready for the opening day on May 4th.
As for OSUM, which is the Operation Student Movement on the Move, they will have a mental health awareness showcase in May to focus on prevention and support for mental health.
For NAHS, which is the National Art Honor Society, artists were able to display their artwork at the White Rabbit Bakery, which is featured this month until the end of June. And they're also working with Joe Sapita, a children's art illustrator, to host workshops with primary and intermediate school ELL students. We're working on creating a mural to be displayed.
And then as for prom is being held next week on Saturday, April 22nd at Oakview Acres, just outside of Canby, with a theme of vintage Hollywood. Students on the prom committee will be selling tickets for $40 during both lunches on Tuesday and Thursday of this week and next Monday. They're also working on arranging goodie bags for the first 150 students to purchase a ticket. As well as the prom committee is also hosting the Husky Formal Closet, which is a closet drive for any juniors or seniors to come in and look at any dresses, button-ups, or shoes that they could use for prom. So if any community members are wanting to get rid of button-ups, shirts, or any of those clothing pieces, they can contact Mrs. Bailey or just drop off those items at the front high school office.
For yearbook, they are putting on the final touches for the fall and winter pages and covering all of the spring topics. Students can purchase their yearbooks at the front office or on jostens.com for $70. Also, if you're a local business who would like to be featured in the yearbook, you can purchase a business advertisement section, which displays your business card on the book. And in addition, community members who want to purchase a past yearbook or forgot to pick one up from the years prior, you can contact Mrs. Bailey to make those arrangements.
And as for Skills USA, they just attended their state competition, which was this past weekend on Friday and Saturday. They had about 3 students preparing in the culinary works area with our chef Eric. And they were also some students participating in welding and carpentry, which was advised by Mr. Trammell. I'm not sure how they did, but they went to their state competition this past weekend.
And for the National Honor Society, members are currently signing up students and staff for their spring blood drive, which will take place on Tuesday, May 16th. The blood drive will be open for staff, students, and hopefully community members as well to participate in and give back. There'll also be a tapping ceremony for new NHS members on Wednesday, May 17th at 6:30 p.m. To welcome them.
Right, and then those are all the updates that we have so far. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Can I show some hardcore bias here? For those that I'm chair for FBLA, and so we put on that conference this weekend in Portland, major success as far as I'm concerned, it exceeded all of our metrics, but I really want to congratulate our 16 kids that went up there. This was the team that had almost everybody on the stage, and 3 first place finished in competitions that were very hard, including international business and things. Our school showed well, including the final updates where Grace Davenport got FBLA member status, which is the highest thing you can pick up. I know she is proud of that, but I'm proud of all the kids that came. We really had a lot of people up on stage. It was fun. We had just under 800 kids there, over 900 attendees there. That went off without a hitch. We had a lot of colleges presenting at our expo. Had a good time. I hope you guys had a good time. And we ate some chicken wings. We pounded some chicken wings, right? Friday night with the Canby kids. So we had like 40-some kids at Buffalo Wild Wings between us and Canby. And yeah, a lot of chicken wings were I'm really happy with that. So just personal bias there, but our schools showed excellent this year.
Yeah. That's great. I saw pictures and they look amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's that.
Yes, a big thank you to her for leading this group and for, you know, and for her heart in doing that. She's done that for quite a few years. I don't know how many, but it's been a long time.
This is her 20th year.
Yeah.
She was 19.
Doesn't she receive an award at 20?
She would have, if she would have taken the position on the national committee, great that then she would have been the FBLA Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
National Hall of Fame. Right. So, but we're looking forward to going to Atlanta. I hope as many kids can come to Atlanta with us. Last year, we took about 220 kids from Oregon to Chicago. It was a blast. And a few of our North Marion kids were there. We had a good time, and we'll have a great time in Atlanta for those who want to come.
Awesome.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, next up, we have UNME leadership update. Okay.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, I'm not there in person.
That's all right.
I really appreciate you guys having me again. So as you probably know by now, I'm Jana Giles. I teach 3rd grade. I'm the union president. So I just wanted to go over a few things, not a lot, but a few things about how the union is going and how your teachers and educators are doing, your licensed staff. So next slide. Perfect. So I just have 2 points. I have more notes than you guys have, just so it wasn't a bunch of words. But I do want to shout out the fact that communication has improved between the school board, the district, and your teachers. Things like being put on the agenda has really helped. There's been a stronger partnership between UNME and North Marion, which is critical to creating a positive work environment, fostering communication, and improving student outcomes. So we just want to say thank you for that. Also, being a little bit reflective, we want to make sure that we thank you again for coming to the table of bargaining last year and helping North Marion educators and North Marion School District have a successful and fair settlement. And we look forward to continuing that communication around bargaining spring of next year. I also want to give a shout out to our teachers at the intermediate school, and I know secondary does this as well. But we just started state testing last week. And so I know it's going really well, and that has so much to do with our amazing educators and the trainings that we've been given for that. The next piece that I want to talk about that's a praise is that our members are doing all they can to prioritize student safety, and they're making sure that they're communicating with the district their needs and their goals. Also, teachers are helping to prepare students for student-led conferences that are coming up here very soon. So we look forward to communicating even more with the parents we have in this community. And then just so you guys know, we do have our UNME Executive Board elections coming up here pretty soon. It'll be in the next 2 months. And the last big shout out, the middle school typed up a paragraph for me. So they want to make sure they give a big howl out to all the students who are part of the chess club, MESA, and AVID. The chess team placed first of 9 schools at the Regional Chess for Success tournament. And MESA students took first, sorry, I should pause there. Yeah, that's huge. First of 9 schools. Yeah. And then the MESA students took first and third place at the MESA demo day at Willamette University.
Nice.
And then, yeah, lastly, AVID is accepting applications for 6th and 8th grade students. 84% and 77% of our current AVID students have an A or B in English language arts and math respectively, which is huge. And AVID just accepted a $1,000 grant where they will be able to attend a Thorns game and receive a career talk from the Thorns organizer to show our students what is possible. So as the middle school said, we are so proud of our students for their hard work and dedication. Yeah. And then the areas that need more support, we just want to make sure that we're keeping the feedback loop open and communication. You guys are able to come to us with questions. We're able to come to you, as well as having the central office involved in those conversations as well. And we just want to continue working together to improve the working relationship with your licensed staff. So yeah, if you have any questions for me, now's a great time. And thank you again for always visiting our classrooms. Sounds like you're going to the high school soon, so that's really exciting. We love seeing you guys. We love having you. So thanks for everything you're doing for our schools here.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jana.
Yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Stay dry if you can.
All right, we have a overnight field trip to acknowledge. Outdoor school is headed for, it looks like, 2 separate overnights and that one day maybe. April 17th through the 19th, April 26th to the 28th, and then May 5th. And that's always a great experience for 6th graders. So did you have a note on that?
Yes, actually, they're splitting the kids up into 3 groups, so there'll be about 40-ish in each group. And they will go on 3 trips. So each group will be spending the night, 2 nights in 3 days.
Cool, awesome. All right, moving along to 6, consent agenda. You guys have all had a chance to look over the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 7, business and budget appropriations. I'm not sure you have much of an update for us, Linda, but I'll let you take it away.
I don't have as much information as I had hoped to. So I wanted to just update you. Last year at this time, I was able to tell you how much we got for high cost disability for the prior year to close it out and for the current year. And I have nothing to say on that this time. There's been no indication what our final SSF is going to be for 21-22. I believe the local revenue is very close to what I estimated it would be. I think our transportation should bring us in a little more. But I don't know what other districts are doing. And so if their transportation fluctuates a lot more than ours, it could skew everything. So we'll see where that ends up. We did receive good information for the state school fund for this year, 22-23. They balance it out with the teacher ratio and with the December to June ratio, which got a little dicey through COVID. But we got good news, and we'll get about $600,000 more. I had, I think it's 660. I had estimated 615 in my projections that I was putting out to a couple of the board members in the admin. So that is in my calculations when I, well, if you see it on the big spreadsheet, it's in there, 600 and some $1,000. We'll just have to wait to see on the prior year stuff to see what we get. Anything we get will help with budgeting for 23-24 at 9.9 billion, which is where we're stuck right now. We do not have enough general funds to cover all the expenses that we have this year. So we are looking for ways to have some savings or shift funds around. We know ESSER can pick up some of that, but these other numbers are critical in how we balance the budget. So I just wanted you to know that. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Doesn't look like it. Thank you, Linda. Moving on to number 8, board action. We have a recommendation on the following guidelines for our transfers for 23-24. Did you want to speak to it at all, or?
Just briefly, in consultation with the building principals, the director of special education, other special programs, title, etc. We've asked for their recommendations for next year. The recommendation is that we accept no interdistrict transfers in K-2, except for the emergency allowances that we have. Those are still in place, and we will accept those gladly. The 3 through 11 will be open until filled, and the caveat is explained down below. And then 12th grader would be case by case, so that would be Deanne Janess. They would consult with Deanne about whether or not that's a good match. Do we have something that's, the student needs something? Do we have what the student needs here to be able to help them with another chance?
Yeah.
So Deanne's been real good about that and very successful in turning some kids' lives around because she's open to that. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So that's a recommendation.
Okay.
That was recorded.
So, is there discussion, or otherwise I'd entertain a motion to accept those recommendations?
I'll make a motion that we accept the non-resident transfer recommendations from admin for 2023, 2024, for those years as presented.
I'll second.
A motion, a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries.
Can the record show that I disagree with the transfer outs, but I still approve it?
School operations.
Allison has been waiting a very long time.
It's like crammed up here.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for having us be last. A lot of opportunity for some wonderful photographs to be taken. We got the longest amount of time to be working towards the strategic plan before we gave our presentation. So it's gonna look familiar because it's the same template that you guys have seen for the other buildings. So we're starting here with our beautiful building in the background, and learning together to cultivate lifelong growth. So here you have a picture of our staff, and the primary school staff is an amazing group of people. They come together to support students and families and each other in ways that you probably can't even imagine. And thank you to Sheldon, because back in the summer, we talked about a theme that we were going to do together at the elementary level, and it's Elevate. And we fully embrace that, and we are always working to get better, to help each other get better, to help our students get better, and just kind of that notch up a little bit every day goes a long way. This is kind of an old picture because we have been privileged to add some staff members to to the group. So I think we probably need to take another one at the end of the year. So our district mission, as you know, is learning together to cultivate lifelong learning. And one of the really cool things about North Marion is that since we're all right here together, there's so many opportunities where we partner with each other. So in this photograph, we have the high school students who have made flags. And if you have students that have gone through, you probably have one of those little flags that they got when they were in second grade, because it's quite the tradition. And then the American Legion comes out and they talk with the students about what it's like to be a veteran. But, you know, other things that we've done is we have high school students coming over for the child development classes and volunteering in the rooms, helping with the hearing screens. I think where our ASB folks go, I had them in a picture that I taken earlier. Read Across America, which will come up later on. We've partnered with Marion County Early Learning Hub to support our kindergarten readiness. So we're just doing a lot with our community, but our number one community is right here on this road. Here is our vision. Again, it's communities engaged and unified and providing all students equitable access to their chosen path. So we've had a big focus on language arts and then school-wide English learning, which I'll say swell, and it's swell. We love it. Here in this photograph, we have our first grade team working with our swell coaches and our instructional coach, and they're working on that purposeful planning for our emerging bilingual students. And so far, we've been able to have each grade level have a half day with our coaches, and then later on in May, they're going to have a full day. So they're getting some really good planning. And this is some writing that came out of the planning that they did with the coaches. So the photo on the left says the people of Mesopotamia wrote in cuneiform. I had to look that up. I was like, these are words that these students are learning from our language arts program. I'm like, I didn't know that. And then the people of Egypt wrote in hieroglyphs, excuse me. And then on the right, you have the people of Egypt farming. So they were really working on scaffolding and setting up sentence frames for the students, and they did some very cute work. I will not read through this slide. It's very wordy, right? Our theory of action. So it just basically talks about what we will do as a leadership team in order to enact the strategic plan. And again, you know, shout out to Sheldon and now Mr. Clutter being part of the team. We worked really closely K-5. And so you actually have already seen this in David's presentation. And yeah, it's just how we're going to get to our goals. So we can move on to goal 1. So this is where we're implementing that rigorous curriculum. And one of the things I really highlighted, you probably, if you looked ahead and saw this already, there's a lot of pictures about our new language arts curriculum. It is amazing. The students are learning skills and that foundational knowledge that's really going to carry them through. It's very engaging, very, very engaging. There's actually kind of a list of the topics coming up. And we're hoping to have the same kind of thing when we do the math materials adoption. We really want to find something that's engaging and aligned and culturally responsive. So this is just an example. You can see there's a timeline. This is from kindergarten, the life of Ray Charles from birth to adult, and they did that with their own little drawings. If you guys want to come by, you walk the halls. It's pretty amazing. So here I have Queen Bow Hall. And she is teaching about kings and queens, and kindergarten has been, this is from just this last week or so, and it is so fun to see the kids. They're wearing their crowns that they will call, you know, their teachers queen. And then on the next slide again, you'll see some slides that really go along with this. And this is, you'll see this often, these charts that they're making. And so it kind of goes from left to right, you know, and it's empty, and then they fill it in with pictures and words, and they're comparing what it was like for kings and queens versus students today. And, you know, so they talk about clothing and shelter and objects. Going back to that well and that scaffolding of language, they will then pull this out and write sentences based off of what they brainstormed as a group. And you'll see this at all grade levels. So highly, highly engaging. You know, these kids they weren't playing for the camera. This is real. Like you see those two on the bottom, they are in it. They are having a conversation. They're talking about, you know, they're reading what they learned, their sounds. It's really fun to see. And again, these are just kind of some artifacts. If you come into the building, you'll see they're plastered all over the walls. Sometimes when I slow down and I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I was like, where did that dinosaur fossil come from? And it's so fun to look at, you know, where this all came from. And it's really providing experiences that I think the kids are going to remember. So this is not an exhaustive list, but pretty close. These are a lot of the themes that we have in our new curriculum, and some of them overlap, like more than one grade level has human body in their knowledge units. But you can see that, you know, they're interesting things. There's kings and queens, like you've seen, human body, animals, habitats, 5 senses. So the kids are loving it, and I think the teachers are really loving teaching it too. I just kept talking, wasn't even looking at notes. So for our next goal, it's about having skills or students develop those skills and their confidence. And so one thing that we had to kind of shift and do this year out of necessity, we didn't have a music teacher for this year. So we have what's called enrichment class. And the students are learning about identifying their emotions and regulating and being their best self. And so that kind of fits in here. And then our school counselor also runs some groups, either on an individual classroom basis or with certain students. And on the next slide, there's a student who is working on something called Centervention that really works on social emotional learning, just to kind of give that little bit of a boost. But one of the really great things that we're seeing right now, and we just talked about today in our leadership meeting, is those interventions and kids getting what they need at their level. And teachers are working really hard to assess students and what they know, and then to meet them where they're at. And so in all grade levels, that's happening for our kiddos. They're really getting what they need that's going to support them individually. Here is Read Across America, which I referenced earlier. So at the end of February, beginning of March, we really focused on getting kids excited about reading and seeing themselves as readers or seeing themselves as book characters. At the end of the week, we had a celebration. You could dress up as your favorite book character. So we've got Clifford and then Elephant and Piggy over there on the right. And we had chosen some books that really highlighted different things, like maybe it was families or different cultures throughout the week. But again, back to the very beginning on the next slide. One of the great things about North Marion is these are the group of high school students that came over to help us with Read Across America. And they chose to take a photo in front of the mural that we have there that a lot of them participated in making. So it's just all of those connections are so amazing about being here. And then the last goal is developing those systems to expand the percentage of staff who are skilled in the use of culturally responsive practices and reflect our demographics. And this photo is a staff PD that we had working on growth mindset. And we worked on warm demander, which I know you guys are familiar with at this point, and ready for rigor. And when we have our Wednesday morning times in May, we're going to be revisiting that and reflecting on how that has gone for us for this school year. And so part of that has been our community engagement. And so this picture, I wanted to let you know, this is from one of our migrant parent nights that our ELD teachers work along with Ruby and Irma. And this presenter, he was an SOR from Beaverton and former detective from Woodburn Police Department. And he was speaking with parents about, you know, positive and healthy ways to discipline their children. And so they had a great turnout for that. And they've been having really good turnouts for this whole year. So that's a really good community engagement that we've been seeing at the elementary level. I can't totally claim that's just primary school, but those teachers have worked together. And, you know, we're working on hiring more bilingual staff. We've added quite a few in the last couple of years. And again, that as well comes up with our professional development. And so just at the end, you have another small compilation of some pictures of kiddos in school. We've got some second graders up in that left corner. They won the readathon for their grade level. So they were super excited to have me come take their photo and announce them over the loudspeaker. Got teachers in the middle who dressed up for Read Across America as Pete the Cat. Our students of the week. And then it's actually Mr. Clutter up there in the right-hand corner because we all jump in and do whatever is needed at every moment. And he's right there, you know, helping teach some kids do some reading.
It's a highlight of my week.
So again, thank you for allowing us to do these presentations. It really was a privilege to go through all these photos. And some of them were, you know, on my phone, like text messages, people send me like, oh, look at this cool thing we're doing. And it was really fun to put it together. So thank you.
Any questions?
That's great.
Yeah, I like all the photos.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Next we have Dave Schultz with Healthy and Safe Schools Annual Report.
Yeah, hello, good evening. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read through the report that I put together. Just highlighting the things that we've done over the last year. So last June, we updated our Health and Safe Schools plan to include links to our low impact pesticide list and full IPM plan and in the introductory HAS plan. It remains posted on our website. We did our water testing for lead and copper as required for the 2022 school year. It is on a 6-year schedule. All the faucets and drinking fountains have been assigned a specific 13-digit number so they can be identified for future testing. All faucets and drinking fountains are below the 15 parts per billion maximum contamination limit. And there were over 400 faucets and drinking fountains tested throughout the district. We have done 8 chemical pesticide herbicide applications in the last year or so. One application was done under a pest emergency protocol and followed IPM procedures. This was for an application that was for the football field where there was a bug infestation, and probably people that attended the football games last year could really see the impact that infestation had. It was kind of disappointing. Our crew worked so hard to maintain that field, and I would put our field up against almost any, natural turf field in the area, and it was just it was disappointing this last year to have that hit when it did. It's one of those things that you don't know the infestation is there until things dry out and they get really hot, and then the grass starts to show that, there's no roots anymore and dies off. But we're hoping to maybe do a spray here in the next month or so to prevent that moving forward. So we don't have that happen right at football season again. I am currently I am current on my IPM training for the district, and then we are scheduled for another class in July. There's 3 others along with myself that take the class. It just makes it easier for us to keep up on things and maintain things and monitor for those pest problems throughout the district. We continue with our weekly, monthly, and annual testing as required by Marion County Health for the district's drinking water and discharge water. Something new, I've been in district since 2017, so I did have a 5-year inspection this year. And during our 5-year inspection with Marion County Health Department, they found 3 deficiencies, but those have all been corrected and we are in good standing. One of the deficiencies was for a schedule of where chloroform water samples are taken from, and we need to test 3 different locations instead of just 2. Oh, so now we test 2 schools 1 month and then 2 schools the next month on a rotating basis. And then we were not aware of this before, but we now test 2 chlorine samples per week in the district water and keep a record. And also the inspector wanted us to add a raw water sample tap at the wellhead, which was completed. We did already have a raw water sample tap inside the well house, but he wanted one right at the wellhead, so that was a requirement, but that's all been taken care of and we're in good standing on that. And then there was some asbestos removal for some hot water tank fittings and tile floor removal at the intermediate school. The work was contracted through PBS Engineering and Environmental Incorporation, and the air quality was monitored throughout the process. Those, just a little side note, those hot water tanks that we took out were 60 years old. So it was quite amazing they lasted that long. I don't think we'll get 60 years out of these next ones, but we'll try. And then the district is current on radon testing as it's on a 10-year schedule. And so it was performed in 2019. And so we're current there as well. And I think Diane would know, but I'm pretty sure we have those results on the website. So those are available, but everything was below any action level on that as well. So that's what I have.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you, David. Much appreciated.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. Well, my hope is that this is actually gonna be kind of short because we're not actually going to be approving the calendar today. But I do want to give you an update about the calendar and kind of why we decided to hit pause for just a few more weeks to finalize things. And my also goal is to not get a reputation for giving really long presentations. So because I feel like I'm gaining a reputation that I'm not proud of right now. So the first thing I want to do really quickly, though, is talk about the process of building a calendar, which I know you are all familiar with. But I want to kind of hit on some of the main components. So there we go. Next slide. So basically, our process is to first gather some initial feedback from our families and staff. We did that through a staff survey, which I will go over really quickly with you today. Then we assemble a calendar committee. We put out requests for participants to both our classified and our teachers association, asking for participants as well as any administrators that want to be involved. So big thank you to those folks who stepped up and were willing to serve this year. We then collaborate and create calendars and then provide it to the union for feedback.
And then we bring it to the board for approval. And so right now we're kind of in the providing it to the union for feedback. We provided our initial drafts and got some feedback, and we could have moved forward, but we felt like the feedback was really valid and we wanted to kind of go back and reconsider some things. So on the next slide, the feedback specifically that we received from our association partners were around how do we want to examine our professional development hours that we have in the calendar. So on the next slide, you can see that our current Wednesdays right now, we have approximately an hour and 45 minutes that we provide to staff every Wednesday. And that's, we have a total of 36 Wednesdays in the year. So that's about 63 hours of professional development time. This year that was divided up in the ways listed. So about 19.25 hours were building directed time and used for building initiatives, like Allison was talking about, culturally responsive teaching practices, etc. 19.25 hours were teacher-directed time that was given back to them to do those professional responsibilities that we were asking teachers to keep on top of all the time. And 24.5 hours were designated for teams and PLCs. The teacher's time is time that we really try to not schedule things, so it's really theirs to be able to do work with. The teams and the PLC time is time that's directed by the principals, but it really is a time for teachers to get together and collaborate. A lot of work happens during that time, not only data collection and looking at how kids are doing, but also developing units, lesson plans, examining teaching strategies, etc. So as we're going to see in the data, we did get feedback that said it's time to maybe get rid of late start Wednesdays, which provides us a lot of new opportunities. However, it also provided us with a dilemma, which is that we lose professional development time. And we're losing professional development time right at a time when we're actually asking teachers and our district to do more than ever. As we move forward with the strategic plan and really thinking about how we want to move forward and really look at student achievement and our results, we don't want to be cutting back on how many hours we give teachers to collaborate and do that work. And so the feedback from the union, that our association was that we were concerned and they were concerned. And so we're kind of go back to the drawing board and look at a few of those things to see if we can come to a better resolution. So in the meantime, though, we did do a calendar survey and I want to share the results of that. So first, this is who participated. And I know that my goal as I do this work is to keep getting more and more responses and see if we can keep building this. But I will say I was happy with the number of responses that we got, especially from our parents. I do think it was sparked by the question about potentially flopping the times. And I know that there were emails going out, especially around our participants in our North Marion Youth Athletics, encouraging parents to speak up and share their thoughts. So I welcome that the survey got shared a lot, and I was excited to see the amount of participation that we did. This kind of shows how the roles were broken down. We did have some people that had that dual role where they were both a parent and an employee, or they are both an administrator and a parent, etc. So we made sure to honor that a lot of people sometimes wear two hats, and especially within our classified association, a lot of parents and employees. So when we asked them to identify the priorities for a calendar, and go down 2 slides, Linda. There we go. This is a really hard to read slide, but it kind of shows that the priorities lived really on those top 5. Like it was not like all over the place. Everyone kind of had a central place where they wanted to see those priorities. And on the next slide, I detail those out. So the priorities were maximizing student contact time, adding time for staff professional development, minimizing special schedules, lots of those little weird half days, aligning time off with other districts, and aligning student conferences across the district. We also asked questions specifically about late start Wednesdays. And you can see we had kind of a split amongst strongly the support for losing late start Wednesdays, specifically when it came to just in that general sense. So it went
But if you take neutral to support, to strongly support, we seem to have a sway that's going towards removing late start Wednesdays. If you go down the next slide, I then broke up that data into more specifics around the roles. And so what you can see is that we had really strong parent support around removing late start Wednesdays. 65% of our parents were supporting that decision. Whereas on the teacher end, we were more at a 50-50 about whether or not that support was there. And on the next slide, I kind of reshuffled the graph just to kind of show it in a different way. So you can see that support, strong parent, then 42% of the teachers, and then less so as we go down, and then the does not support. We have more of a sway on the teacher end of not supporting removing Wednesdays. I won't go through this, but it is shared with you on the next slide. This is the actual, oh, there you go. You can click on this and it will show you the list of comments. And what I did is I took every single piece of feedback people gave also, and I sorted it, whether or not it was pro getting rid of Wednesdays or anti getting rid of Wednesdays or neutral about getting rid of Wednesdays. But some of the common comments that we received around eliminating Wednesdays was that the inconsistent schedule was really difficult for students, and that we saw a lot of behavior and emotional issues, especially at the primary grades, because of those kind of wonky sleep schedules that would happen. We heard from a lot of comments about the impacts on families and childcare because of that late start, as well as impacts on student behavior and the need for extra time periods for work that cannot fit into 2 hours. So that means, like, I'll give a really good example. With the Amplify curriculum at the primary school, we were trying to schedule professional development, and the company said, great, we need 3 hours. And we said, we have no way to give you 3 hours. We have a 2-hour professional development time. Luckily, we were able to convince the primary school staff to come in an hour early to work, and then we compensated them for that. But if we could have longer chunks of time to do some of that professional development that sometimes can't fit in a 2-hour chunk, that would be great. The feedback around keeping Wednesdays was the need for ongoing time and planning. Having it just once a month didn't feel like we could get momentum going. Worries that 8 hours will not be used productively, that teachers will have just a sit and get of professional development, and that doesn't feel productive. And feeling that late start Wednesdays have had positive impacts and that we didn't want to lose momentum with them. So the other place we asked for feedback was around changing start times. And this was around the concept of flipping the elementary and the high school. And as you can see from the feedback here, it was actually really split. And it was kind of split in all 3 directions, both neutral, in favor, and against. And then when we asked about whether or not it could be have a positive impact, again, it was like really split people's opinions about it. And then when we asked the question, do you support this change? Again, it was really split about and it was interestingly split, because it was like, I do not support, and the kind of do not support, and the I do support and kind of don't support, and then the neutral. I mean, it almost adds up to like a 30-30-30 split. So with that, when we look at the feedback, the common feedback we saw from why we would want to make this change, the big piece around supporting the change was just kids need more sleep. And the feeling that the high school and the middle school schedule starting so early, they're not getting that sleep. People who supported the status quo were really concerned about things like sports and how that would impact schedules, especially with our conference where we have to travel pretty far. We didn't want kids missing a half day of school because they had to leave so early. We also worry about our students who have jobs and how that might impact them being able to do their work schedules, or students who might try to leave early or have to do abbreviated day to be able to get to their jobs. The need of older students to be home when their younger siblings get home to be able to help provide for childcare. The feeling that younger students also need sleep and that we didn't necessarily want to make them someone the ones that have to get up. And the feeling that secondary students need to start learning the habits of work, and that a normal job has you get up earlier. And so those were feelings around the support of the status quo. And again, on the next slide, if you want to see all the comments, you can click there and get a full breadth of the specific comments. I just kind of summarized them for you guys on my end. The final question was, what do you want to keep about this current calendar? And I won't go through all this, but you can definitely see where some things were, like starting before Labor or starting after Labor Day, making sure that we have soft starts on those breaks so that we aren't kind of just rushing back into school. Comments around just keeping everything at works, and then there was some funny comments where it would be like, what do you want to keep the changes, keep the times as is, or keep Wednesdays, and then people who want to get rid of Wednesdays, what do you want to change? They would say the same comments. So I added them in, but they end up contradicting each other in some ways. So there's some things in terms of things that they would like to keep about the calendar. As well as on the next slide, we saw themes kind of emerge even though people had different takes on them. So for example, alignment of the trimesters and grading days. So different recommendations included, how do we align our trimesters with breaks so that we aren't like having lots of little weird mini breaks? How do we space out our trimesters so that there's it's a little more even across the school year, etc. We did receive feedback about eliminating late start for another PD model, and some people gave specific examples. For example, early releases instead of late starts, or doing a 4 PD days instead of the 8 that we had suggested. And then also just thinking about our practices around breaks, like how are we scheduling our breaks? So some feedback included not scheduling spring break at the same time as Portland Public, because then the zoos are full and things like that. So there was just some common themes that we saw around for our calendar team. What we really took from that is how can we be more deliberate about the choices we're making and really be able to justify them so that we can create a calendar that reflects some of these different needs that families have. And then there's ones that got less specific feedback. And if you want to see all of those comments, you can click here again. Based on the feedback, we did decide that we were going to make certain decisions. So the first was that we were going to eliminate the Wednesday late start because family feedback showed really strong support for that. However, we still need to find a solution for those loss of hours, as well as the loss of that ongoing consistent time for teachers to collaborate. We did decide to keep start times as is. We are not going to switch them because of the mixed opinions and also feeling that one big change is enough for a year. But we would like to look into it a little bit more and keep bringing back or do some more research to see if this is something that there would be support for. And we would like to we've tried to look at ways to eliminate some special schedules. So I can't tell you exactly what the calendar is going to look like, but we have made some decisions that we think even with the changes will be pretty set. And we know that for families, these are some of the ones they kind of want to know about. So we wanted to give a sneak preview really quick. The first one, and I think I swapped these. Can you go down one slide, Linda, and then we'll go back up. So we'll start with the start of school. We are starting after Labor Day because that was really prominent in the survey. And we also heard feedback that having that work day, the day before the first day, was really worked well for teachers. So that first day of school will be a Wednesday, which it has been for years now, actually. Then go back up for me, Linda. We also did a discussion around winter break. The first was that this year, winter break again kind of has a wonky thing where the New Year's Day is on a Monday, and we could come back on Tuesday, but the feeling that we go straight from New Year's Day straight back to work felt a little like for kids and for families not great. So we are making that Wednesday a teacher curriculum day. We did that again this year. We ended up losing it because of the contract negotiations, but we left it back in this year. So we will start back officially on the 4th for our families and do a teacher curriculum day on that Wednesday. We also looked specifically at winter break. Which winter break do we want to do? 2 solid weeks, or have it so that because we're going kind of long into January where we had 2 weeks only. And the team decided that the feeling was 2 full weeks in December was really important for families as well as our teachers to be able to have the time just to be with their families. So our break will go a little over our typical 2 week. It will be like 2 weeks and 2 days. And for kids, it will be 2 weeks and 3 days. We also look specifically at spring break. A couple things were positive about this spring break option. One was that we aligned with neighboring districts to make sure that our spring break aligned. So we did opt for the last week of March versus the second to the last week of March. The other thing at this moment, at least with the changes we have made, we believe that we're going to be able to get the trimester 2 to line up with spring break. So rather than this year, I believe we had us our end of trimester, then we came back for 3 days and then we went to spring break, which was really hard for kids and teachers. This time, spring break for kids at least will start on the 21st. And so they'll get a little bit longer spring break, and then that trimester will end. And so it will be a much cleaner, and we won't have as many choppy little weeks because of that. All right. The final thing was around spring conferences, and this one might be more up to change as we do a little more discussion with our association partners. But right now, the feedback we have two conflicting pieces of feedback. One is that we did hear from the survey that lining up conferences is good because it works well for families, and we don't want kind of wonky schedules where the high school has the time off, but the primary doesn't because conferences are at different times. However, when we really discussed the purpose of conferences, the feeling that spring conferences were coming way too late for elementary was really prominent. They're at a great time for our high school because we're in that wrap up mode and making sure that kids have adequate credits that they can talk about, because really we're talking about graduation progress. And if, for example, we moved, using freshmen as an example, if we move spring conferences to February for the high school, they would only have one term worth of grades to actually talk about. And that's not really productive and a good use of time for the kids, for the teachers, or for parents. But if we can do it closer to the end of third or to the middle of second trimester, we have a better discussion where we can really talk about graduation progress. But for elementary, it feels like we're having a discussion and saying, well, in a few weeks school will end and your kid maybe needs some intervention. There's not a lot of time to help. But if we could have that conversation in February, we could actually start making, really building partnerships. So even though we got feedback that said it would be great if conferences were aligned, we really felt that we need to unalign them, at least for the elementary, middle, and then the high school. So right now we're playing with the next slide, which is to do separate conferences. We want the days to still line up though, so that families still have the time off together, because we know that sometimes older siblings need to be there to care for younger siblings, etc. So we didn't want it to be the high school still in full session while the elementary's off, and then vice versa later on. So we did some playing with non-contract days and some of those PD days to create a schedule that for the families will look exactly the same. It just will look different for the teachers. So while the high school is doing conferences, the elementaries will be doing PD time and vice versa in the February time where we're doing conferences for the elementary. And there was a lot of support from our team. And this kind of talks about a little bit more too, why we needed to be able to make those line up as much as possible also for our payroll. So we didn't have to build a million different calendars within our payroll system to make sure we're accommodating for everybody. So we think this is going to be a really good solution. And then finally, one more up, go back one more, Linda. There we go. The last day of school, right now, this might change with some of the tweaks that we're making during the discussion with the association. But right now we're looking at about the 17th as the last day of school, which is about where we're at right now also. And so just as a final kind of word, and you can go down to the last slide, Linda. As we're entering into discussions with the association to kind of co-collaborate on some of the next steps with this calendar, we're really wanting to think through how do we make sure we're using this PD time effectively, and really making sure that we are providing our teachers with the time that they need to really serve students, but also being aware of our student contact time and making sure that we're providing for our kids. And so finding that balance is going to be really important. We also want to be able to discuss with them, how do we want to use those longer periods of PD time that we hope to capture so that they don't feel it's a waste of time. Because we know it can be really important and we could be sharing lots of good information, but if they feel like there's better things they could be doing, then we've lost. And so how do we share that and really become co-creators of our vision for moving forward with professional development? Making sure our calendar is supporting student needs, watching our attendance will be really important during this because of the changes. We're hoping that we see better attendance on Wednesdays, et cetera, but we want to make sure that we're actually seeing that to keep moving forward in the right way. And then clear communication about the professional development as we move forward. And then using this to help buildings think through schedules, including staff start times and student start times, so we can be more consistent with making sure teachers have time in front of them to work. And then thinking about how this calendar impacts students, and then doing work to maybe do a mid-year survey to get feedback from families. Our other goal too, I will say, because there's part of me that wants to apologize. My goal next year will be to get this to you way earlier, between writing the TAG plan and getting the integrated plan in front of the state and everything. This tip and the math curriculum adoption, this definitely took a little bit more of a back burner and then got a little truncated. And so my goal is to expand this process a bit too, to see where are other points we can gather feedback, whether it's from our families, our teachers being able to put out the calendars in front of them in a more timely basis, and then get it in front of you guys. My hope would be like closer to like March versus this April stuff. So what will probably happen is in the next few days, we're going to work to get you some calendars, and then we're hoping the possibility of creating then a special session of the board just to approve them so that we can approve them prior to May. So. Any questions?
I just would like to say I like the February, April split that you have.
Oh, good.
That's a lot from a parent and a board perspective. It's very helpful. And I agree with you, when you have them so late, there's no time for intervention.
Yeah, thank you.
But I like how it's set up.
And I will say we're working really hard for when we put those PD days to create moments of break. Because one thing we did notice when we came back, especially full time, is families we're seeing, and teachers we're seeing, and families we're seeing, and kids, where like February, everyone's just like, we're dragging, like we're not gonna make it to the end of the year. So those moments of going, well, where can we build and be purposeful for where we place? If we're gonna do a PD day, let's place it in the right spot so that maybe a family could take a 4-day weekend or a 5-day weekend and go do their little mini vacation that they were hoping to do and not have to pull kids out. And while teachers would still be working, is it the right work that's rejuvenating and kind of fills their cup and gets them going through the rest of the year? So we're trying to be purposeful about that as well and create those little moments for people. So, right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Desiree.
There's nothing wrong with longer.
Well,
You bring
you
a lot of-
guys are different 9 o'clock.
Well, you bring a lot of good data. I love that.
Alrighty, district operations and superintendent report.
Equity training with staff, do you want to say something about that?
I would just say, look, where I can see that. Last Wednesday, and Bill was able to attend a couple of the sessions. Billy Cruz came back to work with our entire staff, and our leadership teams. We're actually the 4th time. So he kicked us off, and then we have had 3 sessions with him over the course of the year this year. And he's been working with us on kind of developing our skills and attitudes and tools to really have a culture of inclusion and belonging, and what it looks like to interact with each other as adults, in our own system, with our community, and importantly with our kids, in ways that cause them to feel included, and that they belong, whether it's just belong in the school, or whether they feel like they belong in a math class or not. So he's been helping us to kind of, in essence, think about some of the conflicts that do come up, at school, and kind of build our tools for deconstructing conflict in productive ways. A lot of that is just teaching us ways to get to know each other better. And so those notions of starting to deconstruct and break down our stereotypes that we might have, assumptions we might have about each other based on who we are or where we are or those types of things. And to really get us to become more aware of the biases that we might have that might actually, inadvertently be creating conflicts and difficulties for us in our interactions at school. So it's one of those things that it's sometimes hard to get a whole district kind of working, on something, over long periods of time. And so I think that the credit to you and superintendent for having Bill come back and stay with us and stay with us and stay with us for the fourth time. We organized around an opportunity for him to meet with all secondary staff, in the morning, and then all elementary staff in the morning. And then he does a series of meetings with school leadership teams over the course of the day. And we really causes us to really think about, how we are interacting as a district, what culture are we building, and how are we going to move forward the work that, that we're learning about in his sessions and in his workshops. So just wanted to update that. And Bill, you've seen a couple of his sessions with staff and
It's fun and impressive, the amount of engagement at both the elementary and the secondary meetings that goes on, and I'm happy that I get to participate in some of the tables. I kind of rotate tables and meet different people during the discussion parts. It's fun.
So we've always all been in schools long enough to kind of think, well, this is going away. Here's our workshop, but how are we going to follow up? So it really is a credit. And I think our last meeting with Bill was now how do we take this forward next year and keep it moving and launch it again. So anyway, just that update.
His idea is how does Bill David Cruz make sure that our administrators and our teacher leaders are moving it forward? So it's like, he's not here anymore. How does he make sure that we're doing? Great. Item B, status superintendent, next steps. I would like to announce that I'm resigning my position. And as of June 30th, so I'll be here till the end of the year. But it would be really important for the board to plan for an interim. And I'm not sure which option I want. Retirement is looking really, really attractive. Because there are some things in the pipeline that I may consider doing, but I have been blessed to be here and to serve this community. I love this community very much, so I may be gone, but I will be back to visit and enjoy the time with our community and sporting events and things that I've been missing. So here's my official letter of invitation, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this community.
Well, on behalf, thank you for your work, on behalf of the students of the district. So,
As part of the hiring group that brought you here, I'm really happy that you came here and work with us. I appreciate all you've done. Oh, sorry, I'm mumbling. I just said, as part of the hiring team that brought Ginger here, and we're really happy with that decision and personally, and I'm really happy that she came and did all the work that with our district. And I think a lot of improvements and a lot of changes were made for the better. And I want to thank you for your time here.
Thank you. With that in mind, I would like to make a motion that we accept Superintendent Rettlinger's resignation effective June 30th.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
So you're going to work up a plan for us?
I need to have a follow-up motion on, to vacate, have the seat declared vacated. So I need one
You
more
wanna do
motion
that
in
now?
order for me to move
I'll
forward.
make a motion that the Board of North Marion School District declare an open position for superintendent as of July 1st, 2023.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? The motion carries.
So now we're gonna come together and make a plan or what we're gonna do.
Yes, so, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let the board process this a little bit and then, I'll probably reach out to you individually, since this news is just dropping, so. So I will plan to reach out, probably individually and get a little bit of a gauge and then, develop a plan forward for sure.
Anyway, with transition.
All right, well, sad to see you go, but I appreciate it, so. That, unless there's other business that needs to come up. That'll complete our business meeting, so we will adjourn at 8:51. However, we have an executive session, ORS 192-66 section 2, subsection I. To evaluate employee performance, review and evaluate the employee-related performance of chief executive officer, employer staff member who does not request an open hearing. Do you need all of it, Rick? Okay. So we will meet in executive session over in the office, just briefly. So.